How does one fight mindless malice? How does one fight ignorance? How does one fight the intent to deceive? Steven Salzberg has published on Forbes.com an article entitled, "New Medicare Data Reveal Startling $496 Million Wasted on Chiropractors." Even though the content is indecent, I welcome this post because, as we know in chiropractic, conflicts clarify. It certainly did energize some folks, and we need a good measure of clarification put into the world right now. Why? Because the consumer psychology regarding healthcare is completely destabilized, and the masses are in desperate need of some clarification and some semblance of reason. Due to the indignation any competent thinking ethical person feels when witnessing such obvious and purposeful ineptitude, the temptation for response is really twofold. One, initiate an ad hominem attack on the author. Two, refute the boorish assertions point by point. With the significant volume of individual and organizational comments posted in response to this article, I have observed that both of these have been amply attended to. The context of Medicare expenditures and what $496 million really represents, the shoddy journalistic practices, the contradictory representation of the author being someone that wants to expose pseudoscience and then supports his premise with complete pseudoscience has been amply addressed. And yes, the obvious straw men and logical fallacies abound. An example, comments like, "Chiropractors are not medical doctors," and the cited opinions of chiropractors with anti-chiropractic sentiments is now scientific proof that chiropractic is no good? Really? And of course, the low-hanging fruit for any anti-chiropractic fear propagator is to bring up the disingenuous reference to chiropractic and stroke. This stroke myth has been thoroughly debunked by Dr. Christopher Kent and other chiropractic luminaries. And as Dr. Kent has suggested, anytime the medical profession wants to compare body counts with the chiropractic profession, we are ready. But I want to be careful not to attack the medical profession over the blind ranting of pseudo-journalists like Salzberg. One of my best friends is a highly regarded cardiothoracic surgeon and has been awarded several grants from the government for his research in adult stem cells. He advocates chiropractic care, as do many medical professionals. We really should be taking issue with Forbes for publishing this slop and serving it to its audience. It really does degrade their brand equity. I'd like to share some personal experience that is relevant to this whole Medicare thing. Some years ago, when I was on the legislative committee for a national chiropractic organization, I took a high-level meeting in the Washington, D.C. area at the Healthcare Financing Administration, now known as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. We had one agenda: to get them to allow chiropractors to opt out of the Medicare system like medical doctors and dentists can. In the meeting, when we positioned our request by saying, I think this was an oversight, and we simply would like to have chiropractors added to the list of providers that may opt out of Medicare. I will never forget the scowls on the faces of these head administrators. You'd think I just called their mother a dirty word. The essence of their response was, we made a mistake letting these others out, and we are not going to let chiropractors opt out. In other words, they want us under their rule. We didn't go there to ask for increased reimbursement or expanded coverage of services. We just wanted the option to not be forced to engage with Medicare. My opinion is that many, if not a majority of chiropractors would opt out of Medicare, accepting no Medicare reimbursement if they were simply allowed to do so. Salzberg would have you believe that somehow DCs are getting rich off of Medicare. Nothing is further from the truth. Compliance in Medicare versus profit is a losing proposition. So, what is this Salzberg article really about? It is certainly not about the facts or any valid scientific positions. I think it is about low-rent journalism being distributed by what was once a marquee brand. And with such editorial negligence, this brand will continue to decline. The power and savvy of the crowd is much greater and swifter than Salzberg or Forbes understand. Lastly, I am not going to be running down blind alleys with my arms waving because I'm so pissed off about this mediocre attack on chiropractic. I have too strong a foundation in my knowledge and experience to let stuff like this shape me. But what of the people who don't have such a foundation that might read this? We all live and die by our own judgments. My take is that many people in the medical system who are tired of drugs or our medical failures will read this, see through it, and make an appointment to see the chiropractor. Others who are disinclined to see a chiropractor will probably let this validate their bias. In the end, our professional roots, scientific validation, and extraordinary patient outcomes can never be injured by the likes of a Salzberg.